Without a doubt, the question I get most often is, Yam, should I start on a 600? And between that and what should my first beginner bike be, man, it's like the question I get most often, and it kind of boggles my mind that in the year of our Lord 2024, with all of humanity's knowledge available to you at your fingertips and your tiny little brick in your pocket, we're still asking the question, should I start on a 600cc machine? The short answer is no. The long answer is no, and today I wanted to talk about that and. So let's just do a quick rundown on why a 600cc bike is not a good idea as your first bike. Let's think about what the bike is designed to do. That's the first thing you'd like to think about on a motorcycle. A 600cc bike, like an R6, a ZX6, your classic Japanese crotch rockets, as normies would be apt to call them. They are homologated racing machines. That means that manufacturers built them so that they could go racing on racetracks. So they are race bikes for the street. And now that's very different than something like, I don't know, a 5.0 Mustang or a Corvette. You might think that those are corollaries, but it's really more like an aerial atom and a regular car. You know, like a 600cc bike is really basically zero compromise. It's designed to go really fast on the racetrack. So it's already not a really great bike for the street just because of that reason. The power band is super peaky. It makes a lot of power, you know? Yes, it's docile down low if you're an experienced motorcyclist, but they're really, really fast. 120 horsepower, thereabouts for a 600 class machine. There's a lot of power for a beginner who's not willing to, you know, put in the time on a smaller bike first to become acclimated to that kind of power. The brakes are really powerful in 600cc bikes, right? Like, they have dual disc brakes up front, typically 2-piston calipers. A lot of those older 600s as well did not have ABS, and so the lines are direct down to the caliper, and you could easily flip end over end on those things. I've seen lots of unfortunate fails with beginners on 600s where they grab a front load of front brake and then just flip the thing end over end. It's kind of cool, but also kind of like, glad you filmed it for us so we could see it. They're also kind of heavy. Beginner bikes, you know, like a Ninja 400 typically weigh like 350, 360 pounds. A 600 class bike weighs about 420, sometimes 430, something like that. So it's a little bit porkier, and that makes it a little bit more difficult. The ergonomics package on a 600 is usually, you know, very committed. So your seat height is really tall, making it kind of awkward for shorter riders, and you're really leaned over, making slow speed maneuvers kind of awkward. You know, if you see a beginner rider in a parking lot tiptoeing the 600 class bike, you can usually tell that they're, you know, trying to get their sea legs underneath them and hopefully not being a squid. And yeah, like, so those are the common, like, just objective reasons why a 600 class bike is just a bad beginner bike. And that's all stuff that you can find on Google. What I think is actually happening here, that this question keeps coming up, is it's a phenomenon, I think, particular to the North American human male specimen, right? We don't have license restrictions in America, right? In Europe and in Australia, you know, developed places with proper healthcare and proper institutions, that's not so freewheeling. You know, you got restricted licenses such that people who are, you know, between the ages of 18 to 24 have to go through a whole licensing system. You got the A1 bikes, or like little 125cc's for the 16-year-old kids. Then you have, you know, the A2 bikes, which are like Ninja 400s, 48 horsepower, that sort of thing. And then your unrestricted A bikes that if you're above 24 years old, you've done the courses and all that, you can just go and get them, right? I really wish we had something like that here in America, because it would genuinely make for safer riders. I've ridden in Europe and on international press launches, and I often find that the European riders have, you know, even the younger guys have much more road acumen than my American counterparts, and it's how I wished, you know, more Americans would ride. But anyways, the North American human male specimen does not have to deal with that, right? And so I think testosterone and hubris really comes into play. And what I see a lot is, and I get this question a lot, both on comments and on my Discord, and sometimes via email and direct messages, those sort of things. They're looking for validation, right? They're looking for someone with experience to tell them, oh, wait, no, your situation is different. You're special. You're unique. You can do this. You got this, you know? And there's this kind of male bravado specifically that comes with the idea that like, oh bro, I can handle that machine. I'm the man, you know, I can handle it. And guys, motorcycles aren't toys, you know, this is really not something you should play around with. And, you know, at the age of 18, 19 years old, if you've never ridden a motorcycle ever before, say, yeah, I can handle a 600, because you more than likely can't. And there's a big difference between riding something confidently, correctly, you know, with full control over the machine, and merely surviving to your destination. I've seen a lot of videos where people are practicing really bad riding, and you can tell that they're very, you know, green new riders. But they're on a 600 or, God forbid, even 1,000, and you can just tell, you're like, all you did was survive to your destination. And it's not that difficult to get on a motorcycle within 1 or 2 days and be able to make it safely somewhere, right? Because truth be told, although you think you're this big macho guy and you're going to be able to handle the power of a 600, you're probably going to be super scared, you know? You're probably going to really gingerly whisper on the throttle and not really use the machine because you're scared, because it makes sense. Your human brain was not designed to ride such a fast vehicle without you having proper acumen and build-up and training to it. So I think for the young guy who has never had any motorcycling experience and is just looking for that validation of like, bro, I can handle a 600, take a step back, reevaluate what you're thinking about, and just do it the way that the vast majority of experienced motorcyclists will tell you is the right idea. You know, like 99% of experienced motorcyclists who have, you know, are worth their salt, right, to borrow the phrase from ancient Roman times, they'll tell you that it's not a good idea. And if everyone's telling you it's not a good idea, why do you think you're a special snowflake that can do whatever they want and, you know, you're man enough to handle it? It's a bit silly, right? Let's discuss perhaps the specimen that is a little different, right? Because I think that for a small percentage of riders, not that it makes sense, but that it, you know, it could be done. Let me explain. If you're the type of guy that you grew up on dirt bikes, right? You've been riding motocross and trail since you were like 5 years old or whatever. You know, you've ridden two-strokes, you've ridden big bikes, you've ridden 450 motocross bikes. Like, I mean, some of these freaking kids on KX85s on these motocross tracks, man, they are so fast, and they clearly know what they're doing, right? And if you have the ability to manage that slip and slide and the jumps and, you know, crazy two-stroke power hands you've been riding for like freaking 8 years or whatever, that's a case where I still don't think it's a great idea, but you're probably gonna be fine if you're one of these hopped up dirt bike Kyle kids and you're like, man, you know, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be okay because I literally already know how to ride a motorcycle. I just need to learn how to respect the size and caliber of a 600 class bike. But if you already have throttle control coming from a dirt bike, you know how to manage a two-stroke machine, it's probably gonna be pretty much okay. I still wouldn't recommend it, truthfully. As someone with quite a bit of motorcycling experience, I still think that you should get something different because, you know, while 600 bikes are really cool and they're really fast and, you know, they're, you know, super fun to ride because they're super fast, it doesn't take much skill to just pin the throttle and go straight on the highway, which is what a lot of North American squids want to do. They want to get on the highway and just pin the throttle and be like, wow, it's so fast. That takes virtually zero skill, right, to go really fast on a highway. And so once you get out to areas like this where you have to actually manage the machine, you know, the high-level dirt bike young squid that I'm thinking of would probably be in a much better position than, you know, this totally brand new rider on a 600. Again, terrible idea. Now, the one thing that I wanted to point out is that we live in a really interesting time in motorcycling because, you know, the should I start on a 600cc argument has been around since I was in high school, back in like the late 2000s. I remember like 2008, my buddies were like, bro, I'm gonna get a motorcycle. I'm gonna get a freaking R6. And I was like, yo, have you ever ridden before? I was like, those things are kind of fast, right? He's like, nah, bro, they're starter bikes, bro, I'll be fine, bro. And then I had one of my buddies get a freaking 848 Street Fighter, and I was like, dude, you're gonna kill yourself. I don't remember what happened to that guy. We lost touch after high school, but I hope he's okay. So I think we live in an interesting time where the 600 is not really even like a relevant category anymore. You'd have to buy them used or get a ZX6 or a Gixxer 600 if you're going to buy them brand new, which a lot of these kids are looking at used bikes. But I think what's cool about the current crop, almost ran into that recycling bin. I think what's cool about the current crop of bikes is you can get something that looks really cool and you can be really proud of, and that is beginner appropriate. When I was starting out in 2015, you know, that was right when we started getting more interesting bikes like the R3 and the RC390, you know, these cool bikes that you could actually be proud to own, rather than a dumpy little Ninja 250. You know, you could even look at the beginner plus category, the MT-07s of the world, maybe even a GSX 8R if you have a little bit of experience. I still think it's not exactly a beginner bike, because the Overton window of beginner bikes has shifted so much, you know, like what we deem is acceptable is so ridiculous nowadays. We look at a bike with 75 horsepower and 50 foot-pounds of torque, and we're like, oh, that's a nice little bike. We're like, that's not a little bike, that's a fast bike, you know? We'll do 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds, you know? You'll yeet yourself off that thing. So there's lots of options, is what I'm saying, that are still relatively appropriate and you can have some fun with. You know, you got the brand new Ninja 500s, Ninja 400s, those look great. Nobody's gonna clown on you for that. And that's the thing, again, a lot of these younger males, and it is males, let's be real, they're looking for validation. They want to be accepted by their pack, and they think that if they don't have a badass motorcycle, that they won't be accepted by the pack. And this is just simply not true, you know? It's not to say that if you don't have a very fast motorcycle, you're not going to be accepted. And truthfully, I think that if you're riding in the type of group that is trying to admonish you for not having a quote-unquote fast bike, you gotta find yourself some other riders to ride with, man. Like, that's really not cool to do. The vast majority of motorcycling groups I've seen that meet up and stuff, man, nobody cares what you ride. Honestly, nobody cares. To be honest, I've seen a big uptick in people wanting to make sure that they wear the proper gear and ride correctly and all that good stuff. And, you know, it's like, I think people are becoming more safety conscious and kind of realizing that, you know, 600s aren't even that interesting of a street bike in the first place, you know? And they're really not. Like, I've been riding for a long time, and you couldn't pay me to daily a 600. You couldn't pay me to, you know, have one of those bikes as my only motorcycle. It's just kind of a silly thing to have. And the same goes for the 1000s, you know? Like, man, I really want to stress to you just how much of a rocket ship a 1000cc bike is. If you've never ridden anything properly fast, man, a 1000cc bike is just going to break your brain with what it can do. And a 600 is a lot like that too. If you've never ridden anything fast, you're going to be plenty surprised at what they can do. So folks, I think you should leave the ego at the door. If you're asking this question in 2024, Yam, should I start on a 600cc bike? Why are you asking that question? Why do you think you're special or different or better than anyone else who would ask that question? And again, unless you are the kind of proto-Kyle, been riding dirt bikes for 10 years, you know, your family's all into motorcycles, all that stuff, unless you are that guy, it's probably not a good idea, right? It's like that meme.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
And taking the time to respect motorcycling and to do it properly and to climb the ladder, you're going to have a more fulfilling journey anyways. You know, it's no fun to start off right at the top, right? Like, it's kind of boring. And it's interesting because, you know, we kind of understand this with cars, I think, because they're more ubiquitous. But I think also with cars, it's weird because they have so many safety features, and, you know, people do feel really safe in them that they don't feel any type of way about, and it's like, oh, put a 20-year-old in a Lamborghini, he probably won't kill himself. I mean, he might, but it's not like putting him on a 1000cc motorcycle. It's like, oh, you'll definitely die. You'll definitely die. You know, as the corollary, I hear this a lot with car people, even though, you know, I don't really think it's as accurate because motorcycling is way more visceral, way more dangerous. But you'll hear people talk about, like, oh, the 90s, or, you know, those crazy cars that had no traction control, and, you know, oh, the Widowmaker Porsche turbos, or, oh, the Carrera GT, it was this crazy bike that, or a crazy car that would kill people. All 600s are like that. All, like, like mid 2600 bikes are pretty much what you're describing with that. They have no TC, they're viscerally powerful. We're just used to it as motorcyclists and it's not as big of a deal, but you really got to be careful with that stuff, man. So boys, be safe out there, know your limits, you know, don't think that you're better than the consensus of motorcycling who have been doing it for much longer than you. And if you're considering starting on a 600, you better have a damn good reason for it. Drop me a comment down below on what you think about this topic. I always love hearing from you guys. And don't listen to your cousin Ronnie, who posted a Facebook comment saying, bro, I started on a 600 and I'm totally fine, bro. You can do it. Don't be a bro. Don't be that guy. Don't listen to that guy. You're better than that. You're watching Yami Noob. I'd like to think you have more than 2 brain cells that are active and trying to keep you safe. So thanks so much for checking out today's video, boys. I'll catch you in the next one. See you later. Well, you made it to the end of the video. Pat yourself on the back right there. And I've heard your feedback that you thought the outros were a little weird. So we're keeping it a little bit more normal. Everything is normal. It's completely normal. And if you want this to end, you just click the video right over there. Or become a member on yaminoob.co and win this bike over here. 51 bikes given away. It's no joke.